The story begins beneath the towering stone walls of a majestic northern fortress. Duke Aline stood resolute, his armor gleaming in the dim light as his troops lined the battlements behind him. Known as the unyielding master of the northern borders, he now faced a threat greater than anything he had anticipated. An endless tide of the undead. Their grotesque forms cloaked in a swirling, toxic fog that spread like disease across the battlefield. One of his men, eyes wide with fear, called out to him and pointed urgently from the heart of the enemy ranks. A lone figure emerged. It was Dorian, the undead knight, a legend drenched in dread. He was a warrior so powerful that even 10 elite knights would hesitate to face him in mortal combat. A grim-faced soldier turned to the Duke and proposed a retreat, suggesting they brace for a siege. He insisted there was no hope of victory, with their current numbers, but Duke Aline rejected the idea outright. He declared that if the city gate were to fall, the entire nation would fall with it. He emphasized that today, here and now, they must hold the line regardless of the cost. Then, mid-sentence, the Duke faltered. His eyes widened, a blur of motion streaked across the field toward the undead ranks, a lone figure charging with inhuman speed. The Duke stared, trying to grasp who this reckless warrior could be. Murmurs rose among the soldiers. Recognition dawned. It was Lord Urin, Arosis, scion of the southern marquis, set of rocks. One soldier noted that Urin fought with daggers. Another expressed disbelief, questioning how anyone, daggers or not, could hope to defeat Dorian. They muttered that it was suicide, but then Urin struck. His daggers slashed through Dorian, and the monstrous knight's armor and flesh began to dissolve, as if submerged in acid shock rippled through the ranks. More undead approached, but Urin moved like a phantom, his blade slicing through corpses that crumbled into melting heaps. The men could hardly believe their eyes. One of them muttered in no, asking if Urin might be a saint sent from heaven. Another scoffed, calling the idea laughable. Urin, however, was no saint. He fought with a cold, precise purpose, invisible to the others. Glowing system messages flickered before him. They reported gained experience and a level up in the Firebone Mountain technique, a poison that ate through the very marrow of the undead. The 10,000 poisons absorption technique had also activated, devouring the surrounding miasma and fueling the progression of the 4 heavenly poison arts to himself. Urin declared that anything useful to his body would be his to claim. 6 months earlier, Urin had awakened in a lavishly decorated room, the softness of the bed beneath him, unfamiliar. Confused, he scanned his surroundings. A beautiful woman stood beside him. She asked if he had awakened. Her voice calm. He stared at her, captivated by her beauty, and struck by her unusual clothing and the sword at her hip. She asked about his condition, but before he could respond, she informed him that she would summon the priest immediately and exited the room before he could question her further. Left alone, Urin tried to make sense of the situation. As he turned to the mirror, what he saw stunned him. He let out a startled cry, staring at the reflection of a chubby, childlike figure where his mature, attractive body had once been. He couldn't believe it. He convinced himself it had to be a dream. Perhaps if he slept again, he'd wake up. In reality, the door opened again. A man in priestly garb entered, greeting him as young master. Behind him came another figure, an older man whose commanding presence was impossible to ignore. The moment he laid eyes on Urin, his face contorted with fury. He seized your friend's hand and scolded him, calling him a disgrace and demanding to know if he had finally chosen to wake up. Urin had no idea who the man was, but his overwhelming presence was terrifying. The priest stepped in, urging the elder to wait with punishment, since the young master had just regained consciousness. Reluctantly, the man backed down. Persuaded by the priest's reasoning, after a brief examination, the priest reported that Urin's mental state seemed stable and his wounds were nearly healed. He expressed cautious relief, but the older man dismissed the relief with disgust. He snarled that he would have preferred Urin to remain unconscious or dead. He then accused him of assaulting his fiancée and declared that he was a monster. He reminded him that he was already 19, that his younger brother had awakened his aura, while he, the eldest son, only grew fatter and more useless by the day. Urin, bewildered, silently questioned what an aura even was. The older man then ordered him to apologize to his fiancée the moment he could walk again. When Urin asked who she was, the man shouted that her name was Alia and warned that if she didn't forgive him, his life was finished. Cornered Urinal nodded and muttered a shaky agreement. The man ended the lecture with a final threat. He was not to bring further shame to the Rox family at the mention of the name Urin. Rox. A chill ran through the young man's spine. He suddenly understood he was Urin Rox, and the furious man before him could only be one person. Maki Wellington Rox. Unthinkingly, he spoke the name aloud. Wellington's fury exploded. Enraged that his son dared use his first name, he struck him hard. Urin's body flew across the room and hit the ground with a thud. Servants rushed to restrain the Maki as Urin lay stunned, barely conscious, even as pain clouded his vision. Part of him clung to the hope that this was all a dream, but then he woke again. Still dazed, he blinked at the ceiling. Another woman entered, her white hair on the stackable. She asked if he had awakened. He called her Aaron and she confirmed her name. Watching him curiously as he clutched his head in despair, he asked her if he had tried to chase Alia and was beaten unconscious. Aaron, surprised by his formal tone, said yes. Lady Alia had struck him down when he tried to assault her. Realization crashed down on him. He was doomed. The full horror of his situation settled in. He was inside the web novel he himself had written. Worse still, he hadn't become the protagonist. He had become Urine Rocks, a pathetic villain who tormented the hero and died like a fool in a back alley. He panicked, refusing to accept it. He screamed that this wasn't just a webtoon. Aaron, confused, asked what that word meant. Urine began to cry. He remembered every shameful detail he had written about Urine Rocks, lazy, talentless, arrogant, relying solely on his family's name. In the novel, he lost Alia to the hero, then tried to kill the protagonist in a fit of jealousy, and died in disgrace. He wondered how he could possibly survive in this world. He had no idea what talents Urine might have. But then he remembered something crucial. He had written this story. He knew about secret opportunities and hidden treasures the protagonist hadn't discovered yet. He had to act fast. Trying to get up, he stumbled. The weight of his bloated body made movement difficult. Aaron rushed to him, asking if he was all right. He brushed her off. She urged him to rest. Suddenly he froze. He realized something was missing, something he had expected to see. Then, as if summoned by his will, a transparent window blinked into view before him. It hovered in the air, revealing information about Aaron. Her traits: Swift Sword, Level 2, Clear Mind, Level 1, Aura Adaptation, Level 1, and below a bar marked Affection. Reading 0. Aaron asked what was wrong. He told her he was just acting weird for a moment and sent her away. She nodded and left alone again. He summoned the window once more. The Swift Sword trait confirmed what he already knew. Aaron was naturally gifted. He then looked closer at the affection meter, wondering if it functioned like the love meters in dating sims. At least it wasn't negative. He thought that was progress pushing forward. He tried to summon his own status window. It appeared instantly. Name: Urine Rocks. Special condition: morbid obesity. Traits: Creator's Eye, Level 1 for Heavenly. Poison Arts locked. Synchronization rate 99.9%. His eyes lingered on the 4 heavenly poison arts. That was from one of his favorite stories, where a heroine used poisons and hidden weapons. It didn't belong in a medieval fantasy setting, yet here it was. One trait caught his attention, in particular, Tang Clan of Sichuan locked. He pondered how such a thing existed here and what might happen if he could unlock it. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the estate, a servant named Aaron spoke with the Marquis. The Marquis asked if Urine had awakened. Aaron confirmed that he had, though she noted that he seemed off physically and mentally. She added that he had stumbled when he tried to stand. The Marquis was surprised. The priest had said your friend's wounds weren't serious. He then asked if Aaron had noticed anything strange. He noted that Urine, who would normally throw a tantrum when told to apologize to Alia, had accepted it quietly this time. The Marquis insisted that this calmness was only temporary, that the old Urine would return soon and seek revenge. Aaron, however, said she hoped the young master would recover and improve with time. The Marquis scoffed at Aaron's optimism, dismissing her belief in Urine with a bitter laugh. He admitted that even he, as Urine, his own father, had long given up hope with dry sarcasm. He added that he pitied her for wasting her time, and that she would have been better off living freely as a knight, rather than attaching herself to someone so hopeless. Aaron said nothing in return. She simply stood in silence, the weight of her master's life hanging in her thoughts. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about the young master had changed, subtly yet unmistakably. Meanwhile, Urine asked Aaron to take him to the training hall. He said he wanted to get some exercise. Aaron, startled by the unusual request, questioned his timing, but Urine insisted as they walked together through the vast garden that separated the residence from the training grounds. Your mind remained focused. He considered the traits revealed by his new ability. The creators. I let him read the stats of others, but the Tang Clan of Sichuan trait remained locked. He guessed that his physical condition, specifically his morbid obesity, might be the key obstacle. Exercise, he decided, was the first step, yet even walking proved difficult. The sprawling palace gardens, larger than several sports fields, left him breathless. He had never felt more aware of his body's weight dragging him down. With every servant they passed, he caught glimpses of their status. Windows affinity scores flashed in harsh red: loathing, disgust, hatred. He couldn't blame them. The original urine had been cruel, arrogant, and lazy. The memory of who he used to be in this world filled him with disgust. After what felt like an eternity of trudging, they finally reached the third training hall. One of the less used spaces inside someone else was already training. The moment urine eyes landed on him, a new window appeared. Affinity -91, desire to kill. Hi. The man's name was Rika. Ali in his trade. Red Swift Sword. Level 1. Rika offered a mocking smile and asked why Urine had come to train. His tone dripped with sarcasm. Urine recognized him instantly and stiffened in response. He replied that of course he remembered Rika. Turning quickly to Aaron, Urine whispered a question asking what had happened between him and this man. Aaron, surprised, asked if he genuinely didn't remember. She explained that years ago, when the market had forced Urine to begin training Urine, furious and defiant, summoned Rika, who was then a trainee knight, and slashed his face with a sword while laughing. After that, the Maki stopped trying to train him. Urine was horrified. The memory was new to him, but it confirmed what he already suspected. The original Urine had been a complete monster. Deciding that it was better to avoid unnecessary conflict, he asked Aaron if there was another training space he could use somewhere more isolated. Aaron told him about the fourth hall located far from the main building. It was poorly equipped and mostly just an empty field to Urine. It sounded perfect. He said that if he was going to lose weight, he'd do it properly and asked her to take him there. When they arrived, Urine immediately thought about the Tang clan of Sichuan. He recalled that they were masters of throwing knives and subtle assassination in an attempt to awaken the trade. He grabbed the dagger and hurled it with force. Nothing happened. Disappointed, he gave a strained laugh and claimed he was just throwing for fun. He figured he needed to improve his stamina first. Aaron suggested he start with some light running. Urine replied that he would train alone and told her to go ahead and focus on her own exercises, and so he began to run. Elsewhere, the Marquis stood at a window, watching in stunned silence. He could hardly believe his son had not only come to the training hall, but had actually started exercising. He questioned how long such strange motivation could last. 3 weeks passed to everyone's astonishment. Urine didn't miss a single day of training. He pushed himself every morning and night. His weight dropped steadily and his appearance began to change. The Marquis, upon seeing him, remarked that such determination was only fitting of his son. He studied Urine closely without the layers of fat. His son had become handsome for the first time in years. The Marquis wondered if his son was finally maturing in his room. Urine stood before the mirror, examining the changes in his body. His progress was undeniable. Yet the Tang clan of Sichuan trade remained locked. He decided to give himself one more month. If that didn't work, he would have no choice but to steal the protagonist's fated encounter. Just then, Aaron entered with his evening meal. A system window appeared the moment the lid came off the bowl. Sharon soup, a traditional ROC's family dish that promotes fat burning and muscle growth, customarily eaten after training. Urine scowled at the familiar sight. Aaron noticed and asked if he was tired of it. He admitted that eating the same soup for 3 weeks straight had worn him down. Aaron's demeanor grew stern. She asked him whether his goal was simply to slim down or to become a knight. Urine answered with enthusiasm, declaring that he intended to become a knight. Aaron scolded him, reminding him that even the market himself consumed Sharon soup after every training session. As the heir of the family, he had no right to complain. Urine muttered in agreement and began eating, telling himself that the tradition was outdated but worth enduring if it helped him transform. Midway through the meal, he paused. The taste was different before he could question it further. A system message flashed. Warning: poison ingested. He froze, but almost instantly another message followed. Condition met. Tang clan of Sichuan unlocked. Stunned, he stared at the screen. He hadn't expected this. Unlocking the trade through poisoned food. It made sense in a twisted way. He had just stepped into the legacy of an assassin clan known for thriving under poison.